Hello, my name is Gefest, I'm a knowledge coach. In my experience, a lot of players have problems when using cover to their advantage. In this video, I want to talk about 6 strategies which can help you to abuse corners so you'll be able to get kills and survive on the map longer. Let's get started. This is gonna be not as edited format like I used to do before. We're just gonna go through this entire presentation. I'm gonna share few knowledge with you, and there are gonna be even more lectures like this one, so take advantage of that and subscribe to my YouTube. You can also find all those lectures on my Discord channel and Metafy website. Starting with the first slide, 6 strategies to abuse corners. Starting with definition. What corner or cover is? In any FPS game, corner or cover is any vertical or horizontal structure or combination of those, which cannot be destroyed. Normal cover can allow you to, first, survive, second, get kills more efficiently. I'm just gonna emphasize this by looking at some of the gameplay here. We just have training range and what I mentioned about horizontal and vertical structures. Vertical structure can be something like this wall over here. This is something what we can use to protect ourselves from bullets. Let's say I want to protect myself from this bot over there. So you can just position this way and then instantly lean towards the cover, just move left. Or you can use horizontal structure like this one and lean back if you don't want to be as exposed anymore. But we still can shoot them. We still can shoot the bot too. Okay. Let's continue. And 2 topics gonna be reviewed today mainly. First one is your survivability. This is gonna be really emphasized. And second, cover. And this can be done in any FPS shooter. Cover can allow you to get kills in a more efficient way. I'm gonna explain that, how it works later. Another thing which is important, additionally, cover can also be artificial. Something like shields or certain objects, maybe venom mine or a Larry lamp, sim turrets. For example, you can protect yourself with those objects too. You maybe could watch some of the Twitch clips where Widowmaker could just place venom mine on a certain structure and they will avoid headshot this way. Or you could also use sim turrets to block bullets. You could even block Cassidy High Noon in some cases. Okay, the way I'm gonna go through this lecture is by first sharing you the problem, whatever players face with, whatever common problems I notice, and the second step is gonna go over solutions. And the first problem here, 2 problems overall, is players tend to overexpose their hitbox, and second, players tend to play away from cover or just wide peek quite a lot. And you can see that on YouTube video here. I just recorded some of the materials with one of my friends. In here, we can see me on soldier and see how much space we have once the enemy will show in here. See all that space between your cover and that soldier. There's quite a lot. And because of that space, because of that gap, it's going to be, first, really hard for you to reach cover and get to safety. It takes a lot of time. And another thing is that this guy on the enemy team, well, whoever is just facing you, they will see most of your hitbox, they will see most of your body. This becomes so much easier for them to kill you. You can see in here what happens eventually is exactly that. They just end up killing me. And you can see that from their perspective, how it looks like for them. Watch it one more time. They can see my entire hitbox over here, the full body. But how much harder it would be for them to get kills if I would be not as exposed. And you're gonna see it on the second example, and I'm just gonna move towards the second slide, and here is this. What are we trying to do to not expose our hitbox as much is use vertical and horizontal structures more. You want to try to minimize space between you and the cover you're using. You can also adapt depending on the map layout, obviously, because we're trying to balance between vertical and horizontal structures. By the way, I might add some notes in there just even when we are recording, because this is video lecture, I'm gonna add some of the notes. Might happen that we're gonna have even more lectures in the future as well, and I'm gonna use this materials with you as well. But so far, we just need to, let's just go over. So the first idea, using vertical and horizontal structures. Okay, you can see on the second example in there, it's gonna show right here how lean back we are, how far we are. Why? Because we're looking to place an enemy as close to that piece of cover which I'm marking with you right now. And this way, for the enemy, it's gonna be really hard to see me. The only thing he sees is my head at the moment. And because head is so much smaller compared to your body, it makes it harder for this guy to get kills. But at the same time, I can see them. This is a big advantage on the field. Mainly in here, we're using horizontal structure to protect ourselves, and this way, it's easy for us to get a kill done. Enemy can only see your head if you're using this horizontal structure, or if you're using combination of the structures, if you're using combination of the cover, such as vertical here and horizontal, you can also try to lean towards the left, and the enemy will be able only to see half of our body, which is ideal. You can maybe implement that sort of rule where you're able to hide in 0.5 seconds, or to use that rule, as I mentioned before, placing an enemy really close to a piece of cover. All those structures together. Okay, let's go over the next step here. And I think on the next slide, we will see another problem, which a lot of players have. They tend to choose certain position where it's gonna be really tough for them to get kills. In a way, they place themselves, enemy is able to get behind the cover easily. Usually what happens is, because you choose those positions, when enemy is close to cover, you're reducing the amount of damage you can do, cannot do continuous damage towards them, and this is not ideal. You can see it in this example, next example here. I'm playing Zenyatta, this is Dorado, and here, this is decent position, usually. This is decent position towards the enemy spawn. We can easily do damage here on any card, whoever shows. You might also charge your right click and then peek out, gives you even bigger advantage. But because of that position here, it's not necessarily bad a lot of times, right? But if we're just looking to emphasize this problem, a lot of times what happens when players choose not as good cover is enemies are able to get behind the cover instantly. I can see there enemy Hog and enemy Cassidy, they're just able to hide behind this building almost instantly. Okay, what's the solution to that? And the solution is trying to position in a way so the enemies are further away from cover. Taking the positions such as, so we're able to deal more continuous damage on them. It's really important for characters like Soldier. I think any characters where you are shooting multiple bullets, you don't have as much burst, such as, for example, in Widow, you have a lot of burst. Even Zenyatta, you have a lot of burst. This is quite important for those continuous damage characters. And I will show you in this example here what could be done right in this moment. What your position could be to maximize the enemy hitbox. Well, potentially, you could just move over here. And of course, your positioning depends on multiple factors. Sometimes you will not be able to be here because of certain threat. Maybe there is just somebody threatening us from the enemy spawn. Let's say this position A, maybe the Widow is trying to kill you, so we'll not choose that position, but this is typically what you will try to do with cover. You will try to place yourself within certain structure, really close, and this is what we mentioned the first step, trying to remove all that space, ideally between your cover and the enemy, and then looking to shoot your bullets. But also, if the enemies are much further away from cover, like in this case, because we positioned ourselves to give us that advantage, it helps us to get a kill. You can simply do more damage, and maybe you can also take your time to do some shots, like in the case of Zenyatta or sometimes Widowmaker. There's a nice spot behind, by the way. A lot of Widow players just take that position and have this good angle on the main street or towards that spawn over here, that area. Okay, let's continue. By the way, guys, if you're gonna have any questions, make sure to send those in the comments. You can message me on Discord as well. But yeah, I'm really glad to be helpful, and if there's gonna be even one idea which is helpful to you guys, that's already a win for me. I'm gonna be honest. Second thing which I mentioned there is more about trying to scout the information. We need to anticipate enemy position a little bit more. The basic thing is you want to look at the character and then look at the range and angles they usually play. What I mean by that is, if I look at something like Tracer, for example, this character is more short range oriented. You're trying to play close distance to the enemy, not shotgun range, but pretty close. Usually your distance is somewhere around here. This is pretty decent. We can be even just slightly further away. You have good continuous damage opportunity. You don't have as much fall off. Stuff like that. And another thing which Tracer do with her angles is they are looking to position on some sort of flank. Once you make those predictions, it makes it easy for you to position and choose the right cover. Yeah, simply, if we even use this example, if I know that there's an enemy Widowmaker maybe coming out from the spawn, or let's say they choose to position on that left building, if I know that she's there, I will not be going right side anymore if she's on the left one, because I don't want to be exposed to her. I'll be choosing to just cut off her sideline. But then, because I want to use my cover and maximize the amount of damage I do, I'm just gonna do this, what we see now. It's one of the examples, but hopefully you might see in your games as well why sometimes even flanking as Zenyatta works, or maybe flanking as some sort of other character might work, is because they use cover pretty well. They know how it works, how to maximize the enemy angles and minimize your hitbox. I highly suggest you guys try to implement those steps together. The first and the second one strategy, I think, is really important. I wouldn't practice it in the way, try to practice all those concepts instantly together, but try to implement first strategy, some of the ideas from first one, and then later practice second strategy as well. Some of the ideas, just pick anything. You might pick on the first strategy, use verticality a little bit more, or use horizontal structures a little bit more, and then once you're comfortable with that topic, you can try to maximize enemy damage too. Those topics together overall in the long term, I think, can give you a lot of advantage on the map, whatever situation you're in. Let's continue. Okay, so we went over the solutions. Scouting can really help on the second strategy. And the third strategy is you need to not be as exposed to many angles. You just want to find a position where you're not as exposed. And let's just give you the problem the players face with usually when they're exposed to too many angles. What happens? This is a King's Row typical situation. A lot of hitscan players tend to stay here or on the left high ground, and we can see now there are two angles which are able to shoot you. This soldier at A and this Cassidy at a position B. There also might be angles such as this one at C. Maybe there's a Widowmaker, or she also might be at the enemy spawn above as well, position C1. But anyway, the way we position, now we're exposed to too many threats, and this is not ideal. It just leads to a lot of pressure on you, and that's what happens. The easy solution is try to minimize your hitbox. Try to make sure you minimize it through dealing with one angle at a time. And you can see it here, because we lean back towards the stairs now, because we're able to use this vertical structure and this horizontal structure as well. It protects us in a way. It protects us from incoming damage from, I would say, this angle on the right, the angle B, and maybe a little bit of the angle on the left if somebody comes this way as well. You can see just normal pressure on the Cassidy, even getting a kill on them, and once you're able to do. You can choose to challenge another angle. Yeah, we don't want to challenge every possible member on the enemy team at once. So this is really good. Okay, moving forward. Once we went over this, I also highly suggest, if you ever have a situation where you have to deal with more than one threat, just choose what is more killable, typically. Usually when we are on the map, there are multiple things which can shoot you. Sometimes on the one angle, you also might find multiple characters as well. Just choosing what is more killable is pretty good. Okay, going over the next strategy is a lot of players, they struggle with using corners outside of comfortable range. They are not using those kind of corners, and you will see in there, as an example, it's pretty typical in my Genji sessions. I see that quite a lot, is that players tend to do this. They tend to play really far outside of the range where they're not able to be as effective. For example, Genji in general can only be most effective when they're trying to go for shotgun angles, to go for the right click. That is where most of your damage is coming from. And of course, beforehand, you're able to do primary fire as well with normal 3 shurikens right one after another, but this is not high damage output. And we can see in there, because we position really far, die pretty fast. And multiple people can shoot us, not as effective pressure. That is something you want to avoid. Another example of this problem as well, I've been sharing with one of the Tracer players, and this is one of the YouTube videos which been saved as well on my main YouTube channel. I think you can just see that this player, they're pretty decent at looking for flank, maybe even using cover, not getting poked as much. But when they start pressure, because they start too early, the enemy is just able to notice them. They're just able to turn around and poke them. For example, this BAP will have an advantage versus this Tracer, and that's why you don't want to fight. Yeah, maybe you can take your time, just try to blink. For example, here we can just try to get the building, or simply get closer and then shoot. I think leveraging the building is a really good choice though, because you can minimize the amount of angles you deal with, you have a lot of cover, you have HP pack as well. But because they start too early, what is gonna happen with them is this BAP is just, yeah, they're gonna turn around and maybe shoot them and maybe poke them. And this is not an ideal situation. How to solve this problem? The solution is pretty simple. Next slide. Over here. We're simply trying to use corners at our effective range. I usually like to describe it with words, you need to play more proactive positions. And if you have those more proactive positions, which are using more effective range potential, yeah, because every character, it depends on what your effective range is. And you can see in there, in the video, the next time, if we just watch this example over here, it's Route 66, same kind of angle, and because we have the shotgun position now, able to establish so much pressure. my friend was spinning there for no reason. Hopefully this example makes sense anyway, and we just able to get a kill. But let's say even though you would not be able to do the pressure, this position still generates a lot of pressure. This position is allowing you to do a lot. There are a lot of options, and this might be scary for the enemy team because you have this proactive position. It forces an enemy to do actions towards you, and this is really important. A lot of players try to play too passive, I would say. They try to play, like in this case, some of my sessions, as I mentioned before, players too scared to just go in the enemy face. If I coach some Genji players, they just tend to play really far. They say, what if I die at my effective range distance? But this position here, because it's not as proactive a lot of times, it's not doing a lot of pressure, especially if you're using mouse 2, our secondary fire here, is it's not doing much, your team will die faster. But being proactive, it helps you. It helps you to stay more in control. You're forcing the enemy team to do something towards you. This example right there, this is pretty good. Or maybe something like Numbani, you can see me also the recording as well, where we try to climb on this ledge. We're just trying to get closer to the enemy here, and because this position generates a lot of pressure, we're really close. First, we're able to get a kill pretty fast, and second, yeah, you simply have a lot of options in terms of proactive value. Yeah, the enemies might be pretty scared. They have no options but maybe invest their abilities. In case of the cast, they might go and use their flash, or they might also try to right click you instantly because they're scared. I'm gonna give you another example, and I'm gonna use custom game for this. It's gonna be something like on Gibraltar. I think this is gonna be a good example to go over. Basically, what is that about is, again, finding positions which are allowing you to generate more pressure, because using your effective range, first of all, you're not getting poked, and second, you're able to get kills more effectively because you're closer, you're generating so much pressure. I'll show you this example. A lot of Winston's players tend to ignore that. A lot of dive players, any dive characters, tracers, ball players, sometimes Genjis, maybe Kiriko as well, they're not taking advantage of their mobility. They tend to be just like that. Imagine when we fight for this first corner, a lot of times you see players engaging just like that, yeah, instantly going to the open, and it might be a good example, good kind of jump in a lot of cases, but if you have time, you can do it differently. Instead of me going to all that open space here where I can easily get poked, where this can be easily telegraphed, the enemy team can easily notice me, they can react, roll back, or maybe even give up this high ground, which is in your favor usually, but they basically can lean towards the safety approach. What we can do instead of this jump, we can just try to get closer first, go on this corner. And this position becomes tricky because you have a lot of proactive value. You have this sort of proactive position. Some enemies might push you. They might be impatient. They might just try to peek and even sometimes drop. And this is where you can get a kill. Because you have your jump. You also have your mobility. You can still always escape towards your team. There's also HP pack we can use. But what this position can allow us to do next is this as well. We can easily set up our own pressure faster. And this just becomes not taking as much poke. Let's phrase it this way. I think this is a really good example, especially on any vertical maps, anything where you have those high grounds. This example can be pretty good. And let's talk about the next problem. A lot of players have this thing where they're not controlling power positions. Power position. I think this is a good topic for the proper video. I can go over that more in depth, but overall, to just establish the problem, a lot of players tend to choose a corner, which limits their options to do overall pressure. Because they do that, they can't check certain angles, they cannot get enough information, and they're also getting killed easily. I'm just gonna show you an example. This is on YouTube video again. Choosing a position which limits options to control the map, can't see as much space. Can be showed somewhere over here, right after this. So we have Widowmaker position, and it's pretty common situation, especially for any low-ranked players, somewhere around gold, silver, maybe lower, sometimes even higher. People still forget in the middle of the fight that they have to take power position. As we can see here, this is second point, Route 66, and this Widow is positioned out at the bridge. They are scared about something coming up from here, let's just say this angle A, but because they do that, they also limit the options. They don't have as many options to control the map, and it's also easy for the enemy to just catch them. And what happens a lot when you have these positions, you can get flanked by someone, and because we're not aware of those angles, to just show you, let's go back to here, maybe something's coming from the left, or somebody is coming from the right side, because we're not able to control that. We're not seeing those guys. We just can die there. I think Venom Mine is a big helper as well in checking those angles, but this is not the first tool which you want to implement right away. Venom Mine helps, your positioning is going to help you even more. I think let's just go over the slide where we have another example over here. It's going to be first point. Same kind of situation, position under the bridge, limiting our options to see this angle on the right side. This can be easily flanked now. We can be easily flanked. Maybe the enemies might come all the way left as well. Something like Tracer or Sombra might catch you. We'll also stay quiet and open too. This is what happens usually. We can die from the angle because we're not aware. Now to give you a solution. And this is on the next slide here. Give you a solution. We just want to control power positions. And what power positions are exactly are, those are positions which allow you to control more space on the map. We're able to control more valuable positions. I think this idea is especially important for long-range characters and mobile characters as well. Why? Because you with your damage or with your mobility able to go from one place to another real quick. If you have that power position, this helps a lot in establishing proper pressure. To give you a good example of this, it's right here, same map, same point, second point. This widow, we here choose to position up on this high ground because it allows us to have the vision on this angle A, and we can also have the vision on the angle B. Potentially, you're also able to control angle C. And because there's a lot of verticality as well, I think it's going to be hard for the enemy to catch you in general, for anybody who don't have some verticality, like Tracer, for example. But again, the main nice thing about this position is that you're able to control this entire map easily. It's just one of the examples of the power position. And we can see maybe something's gonna come from this angle where you can just kill them. But at the same time, maybe there's gonna be another threat coming to the left, you can also try to shoot them. Or somebody on this angle also have the vision on them too. Of course, this is more a scripted video, right? In the real game, the players will move more, they will try to dodge, they will also try to anticipate that you know that you here. We don't have to be always stationary, the same position, but the idea is we can move around the angle and just choose more valuable options, yeah? You can even stay to the left of that position, this power position, or slightly more to the right, depending on the situation. Like here, we're staying more to the right, okay? Let me see any good examples next. Yeah, this is similar for the first point as well. We controlling this gas station, which is pretty common power position spot. You're able to control this angle over here. So this is where some of the flankers might come sometimes. This angle A, position under B, and there also might be position C. We can control main as well. We have that piece of cover close to us too. So we're just able to minimize our instantly. But hopefully that makes sense. And to elaborate on the power position topic, those positions are allowing you to scout for potential threats easier. As you could see there, this position, I can instantly see this angle. Similar to what I mentioned before, yeah, it's not only that capability or power value which that position gives you, but also that allows you to scout information, to just get information. And this is the most important for any high rank players. They always search for information. They try to see who is using their ability, who is where and why those taken in a certain position, stuff like that. I think power positions are extremely important. Okay, let's move to the next slide. The next slide here we have finally the last topic is mechanics. And some problems which players have is, I think, mostly including placing crosshair in the middle of the screen. A lot of players, they just tend to not have the best position for their crosshair, and because of that, it makes it more difficult to aim and eliminate the enemy. So there are two main things. The two main things is such as it takes more time to move your crosshair. Second, you are making unnecessary movements with your mouse as well, because you don't have a proper crosshair placement. And just to give you an example how that shows usually is by this. You can see the cast of the example over here. I'm just gonna move back a little and notice where the crosshair is. Crosshair is in the middle of nowhere. The enemies which might come from this corner on the left side. This is Oasis map. They might come from this cover. It's over here, just behind the wall. And there's also somebody who might come this way. Maybe somebody can peek the angle over here, but we don't have a proper placement. And because of that, it takes so much time for me to move the crosshair. From this point A, which is over here, to this point B, where the soldier's coming from, takes a lot of time, and it just makes it harder for you to aim. It might be even unnoticed for you a lot of times, but it really is the crosshair movement is not allowing you to get kills properly. Yeah, eventually we just died. There's another mistake, which is, you can see here in addition, is we getting closer unnecessarily. Yeah, we too exposed, going in the middle of nowhere, and there are multiple angles which can shoot you potentially. It would be much better decision for me to maybe use that cover over here on the right side, so I'm not as exposed. And so yeah, the solutions to this problem is, you need to do this. I think first one, your crosshair placement specifics, your crosshair have to be more on corners, on some sort of cover, on some sort of corner. Where do you expect the enemy? We're trying to put crosshair on head level as well, and when you are doing this tip, I would suggest try to focus on your target, not just your crosshair. Crosshair is important addition, but try to see the target's movement, where they go, left or D-strafe, maybe they're scoped in, stuff like that. All of that, it really helps you to get a kill. And you can see an example, because I'm placing my crosshair right on the corner, it takes much less time for me to start shooting. The crosshair is already closer to the corner. It's not perfect, really not perfect, but still, because it's pretty close, I don't have to do as much movement. Yeah, and just some other notes as well. It's more about game sense, is what I mentioned here. You can look to anticipate where the enemy is, and because you expect the enemy in that certain position, you can already place your crosshair. For example, here, there are some expectations for me. A lot of times, mostly you expect players coming from some sort of main angle, and here this is Oasis. You can separate this on 3 lanes in a way. There's a main lane, which is going over here. There's another lane, side lane, going over there, and another lane is to the left, where the high gun is. And a lot of times you might notice that there are more players in the main lane. Obviously, everything depends on situation, depends on who you're tracking, what they have, what they don't have. Because if they have a tracer, yeah, I might expect them to just flank me a little bit more. Maybe they are trying to take the left lane over here. Or that soldier here, they just also might be on the high ground sometimes. But this is definitely helper. You trying to anticipate, you're looking to scout the enemy team's position, and this is what I mentioned before. Getting information, it helps you with your crosshair placement together. You will place it on the correct corner, on the correct angle and cover. It's just a bonus tip here. It's more to help you with survivability. Whenever you're trying to move from cover, whenever you're trying to peek out, and that is something what I'm gonna show in custom game. Yeah, so the thing you can do is first move in parallel to cover. Just watch. So I can just choose Cassidy, I think. And let's imagine this bot is gonna shoot me. What a lot of players do, they just moving towards the target, just like that. And because you're moving towards the target, your movement becomes much linear for them. You're moving in a straight line, basically. But if I want to use the corner in a smart way, I potentially can just move in parallel to cover. I will not peek like this, but I will peek like this. I will go right, because this cover goes right, I go right. And this throws off enemy aim. It becomes much harder for them to aim. Instead of, again, moving like just like that, moving in a straight line. I think moving in parallel to cover, especially at the lower ranks, it's underused. Obviously, the higher tier you are, the more this sort of stuff you do, but I think this one is important. And as I mentioned, it's additional step. And when you move in parallel to cover, you can combine it with peek shooting. I think it's more useful on those characters with a high burst, like Cassidy. I can peek and shoot. and then hide again behind the cover. This way we're minimizing our hitbox. Remember the thing we mentioned about vertical structure, because I'm using verticality, I'm minimizing my hitbox, and this way it becomes so much harder for the enemy to kill me. Stuff like that. As a final word, I highly suggest to practice all those ideas one step at a time. Pick one specific idea and get better at this. And then later you can practice other ideas too. If you guys are gonna have any questions about how to practice effectively, or you wanna go more in depth over those topics, feel free to book a session with me on Matterify. I'll be glad to help you. Another thing which I wanted to mention is I have the group been recently launched on the website. This works like a Patreon. It works the same way. There are subscriptions which gives you benefit. For example, if you're gonna get something like standard subscription, it gives you a free replay review every month. I'm gonna do brief review of your gameplay, 30 minutes usually, and it's gonna be done on Twitch. I think it's just for any people who cannot afford the session, or they just not able to find a suitable time. I think this might be really useful. And additionally, those kind of tiers, those are mainly to support me, support my content. If you guys find it really enjoyable, you want to see more of these lectures or any sort of videos, then feel free to subscribe. And regarding another tier, Epic Support, similar to standard, but just gives you more benefits. It gives you additional unlimited 5% discount on any session, training plan, and you also get a Discord role for all of this. And final tier is you're gonna get 2 free replay reviews every month and unlimited 10% discount on any session and training plan. During my editing, I thought it would be useful to add some additional info about my Discord. I think you guys, for anyone who don't know, take advantage of that. I upload my sessions on Discord here. There's a special channel. It's called Coaching Uploads. I upload pretty much every week. You can take advantage and just watch all of those here. I have the channel where I structure all the lessons. You can find it in here. You can even type in the name of the character. For example, you interested about something like Ash, so you can just write down Ash and fine. Right there, the bunch of words, scroll down, almost every rank, I think. I'm gonna add even more, and I have a bunch of words from my previous students. Those are not public yet, but I will make those public whenever I can. If you guys have any questions, ask me those on my Discord channel. Take advantage of that. Just type in your question. I think everybody can take advantage of that because the question is public and it's been answered. You guys can watch it and just learn some additional info. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see everyone later.